Hi, welcome to Cerebral Arcade. I'm Stacey, and I am a PhD fellow. And today I am going to be continuing Kentucky Route Zero Act 3.
Hi, welcome to Cerebral Arcade. I'm Stacey.
That's my other monitor. Great. So I'm really excited. I think this is going to be our last installment of Kentucky Route Zero, and it should be a lot of fun. Last time the stream ran a little bit long and I started to kind of run out of energy by the end, so I wanted to just kind of recap what was going on a little bit. Oh, thank you so much, Bloop, and hello, I'm so glad you're joining me. So last time we found Xanadu, and we used Xanadu to track down Lula, who told us to meet her at the Bureau, and she would help us get to Dogwood Drive, which we have been trying to get to for the whole game so far. And so we are now meeting her at the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, and we're doing a little bit of a flashback right now to find out what was happening with the strangers. So apparently we were talking to Donald, this kind of Ted Nelson figure, and Donald told us that Xanadu was being sabotaged by the strangers, and so we had just started the episode that was going to tell us who these strangers were and what they were doing. And so I'm gonna go ahead. I think it's gonna start me back a little bit further back than where I was, but that's good because that'll kind of give us a little bit of a refresher. And hopefully, if we have time, I would also really love to get to some of the auxiliary materials that came out interstitially in between some of the episodes. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to continue Act 3. Do you mean you didn't catch it while we were watching it, or you weren't able to watch the stream? Either one's fine. Okay, so we're about to find out where the strangers come from. And so it starts us back at this graveyard, which is kind of this fun postmodern sort of feeling where a lot of times theater kind of from a certain era, Minecraft's great, theater from a certain era likes to do this thing, this kind of Rashomon effect, where we see something happen and then we see those same events happen from different characters' points of views. So that's kind of what we're doing here. We previously played this scene as Ezra, and yeah, let's go ahead. Worth a look inside, I guess. So previously we played this scene as Ezra and Junebug, and again that had this kind of like waiting for Godot sort of thing, where we were just kind of sitting around waiting for Conway and Shannon to get back, and sort of pontificating on various things from the point of view of a child. And now we get to kind of go on the adventure as Conway and Shannon, so should be fun. And we started to kind of get to some of this at the end of the previous stream, but like I said, I really was like very tired and had sort of stopped talking and all of that, so I want to kind of talk a little bit about this like as we're going through it. Okay, the church floor is cold metal, scuffed and flexed by unknown boot heels. So let's go ahead and have a seat. And I love this sort of subtle rotation of the camera here, providing just like a little bit of movement, just enough to kind of make the scene feel dynamic and interesting. Shannon says, "I don't know what I expected." Let's go ahead and go with this. The strangers, he kept saying. Kind of vague already, isn't it? Donald's a stranger. Hell, you and I are practically strangers. Listen, earlier in the mine, I didn't want to talk about it, but... and so what she's referring to is kind of earlier in the mine, she, when we first encountered her, she was talking to what seemed to be Weaver's ghost. When I saw Weaver, she was on TV. I was testing a pretty simple tube repair, flipping through the channels to check the saturation. She was just there. It was kind of horrible. I mean, I told you she disappeared. Suddenly, ran away, but we thought... and the implication up to now is that everybody has thought that Weaver was dead. Yeah, I guess I don't like to say it. Dead. And then, the next time I flipped the channel to Weaver. It's burned in my vision now. She's standing in a room, the walls are blank, kind of gray. There's tape on the walls like marking, and desks. A classroom, maybe? The camera is in the corner, so it's this sort of 45-degree angle into the room, and there's Weaver right in the center of the picture. And I think I pointed this out last time, but with this kind of comment on the 45-degree angle, that's also, of course, kind of the isometric angle that we're looking at this scene from. And the camera sort of moved around, kind of drawing our attention to that angle, even. I feel like this game has a lot of game feel in the way that it's not about directly controlled player character movement. The game feel is usually... Yeah, I think that's a really great point, actually. So the game feel in this game is really strong and interesting, but also from this perspective of like a director, like how does it feel to control characters in a really different way? So you yourself aren't being the character, you're not sort of assuming the role of the character, but you kind of get to order the characters around. Something in between like a director and also playing with dolls. So it's kind of fun digital space. She said to go to the mine, I'd find something there. I can't remember her exact words. Whenever I try, I get distracted. Fuzzy eye. Shannon coughs into her sleeve. It's so dusty in here, right? And so, you know, again, like I've been talking about it throughout all of the streams we've done so far, but I sort of really love the kinds of choices we get. Where this choice really boils down to, do I want to sort of... you know, sympathize with Shannon, let her off the hook, or do I want to kind of have this adversarial approach? And it's probably not actually going to affect very much. It's not going to affect the outcome, but it does sort of affect the characterization that we give Conway. You'd think, with all these holes in the ceiling. The hell was that? Did you hear that? And what's great about that was the audio actually dropped out. So we have, you know, kind of this like nice ambient audio, and then all of a sudden silence. And that's really great at kind of drawing this drama out and kind of unsettling the player a bit. So we can say either of these things. I don't want to check outside, so not that it matters because it will do whatever it wants anyway. Okay, so you kind of have this skeleton figure, and what's interesting is that as soon as the platform lowers, now we're controlling the skeleton. And so what I like about the skeleton figure is that my initial reading would be just of a skeleton or some sort of kind of undead, but because he's flashing in the same way that our artificial limb is flashing, you could also read this character as an android, right? So, so interesting. And now with the perspective switch, now these are visitors. So let's talk to our visitors. The stranger activates the tape player slung on his shoulder. A crackly drawl echoes in the room. It is patient and sounds like it should be smiling. So even though we have now assumed control over the android character, the dialogue and the written text is still sort of being narrated at us sort of from the semi-omniscient point of view, but it calls the android the stranger. So like it's kind of also from Shannon and Conway's perspective. So his name is Doolittle. My regrets. I hope I didn't keep you waiting long. We don't see a lot of foot traffic these days. I guess you're here about the job. I'm afraid we only have one opening at the moment. Horrible business. So I went through kind of a bit of the dialogue tree in the last stream. So I'm gonna choose options that feel like they should sort of cut to the chase, which I did not do last time. And I'm kind of interested to see how the game actually reacts to that. Certainly, I'll let you know everything you need to know. I've only just met you, but I feel certain there's a place for you here. I'll just take you over to meet the dispatcher, show you some trucks, get you familiarized. We can converse as we go. So that's interesting. It kind of cut out a whole dialogue tree about what we feel like we can do here, you know, what we see our place being, what our skills are, and then we sort of say, oh, we can drive trucks, we've driven lots of trucks. And we kind of just cut all of that out and got right to the chase. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. And when, in the last stream, we sort of saw as we went down below, it looks sort of like a factory, so let's try that. Yeah, maybe, but for what? Why hidden away like this? And what's that smell? Like bread. Baking bread? Please, follow me. And so we're still controlling Doolittle now with the visitors following us. I have to ask you to step in here a moment. This is for your safety, and adjust your outfits just a bit. There's some protective headwear on the wall back there. Please remove your shoes and eyeglasses. Again, this feels like a choice that won't matter. Oh, I understand. It's only a courtesy to... Well, do us a favor and put on the headwear anyway. Just this way. Interesting, so I'm actually not controlling Doolittle now, and last time... okay. It does give me the option to control him again, but kind of took me on that little detour off to the side there. Which is interesting because it also sort of tells me as the player that that's not actually the way to go. So, as the player, that sort of leads me to explore other directions down here. Gonna kind of look around. We talked to these people last time, but let's talk to them again. More new arrivals this evening. Plenty to do. Gotta relay the formula. We didn't really ask about the formula. Oh, the formula. Changed our lives. Once, years ago, we were as prisoners to the intricacies of our debts here. We'd have to account for everything on paper. Compounding interest by hand, reassessing amortization, and leveraged asset distributions according to nightly merit decay. Then she stepped out of the dark caves to show us the light of the formula. She had a brilliant grasp of mathematics and a saintly way of speaking right through the numbers. So kind of interesting that math and sort of accounting and finances has this sort of religious parallel. That's, I don't know, it's just kind of fun. Now we plug our daily numbers into the formula and run it all through the adding machine. We occasionally suffer some surplus drift, but she instructed us on all the necessary adjustments. So what's so funny is that when you're sort of presented with these options in this way, it seems really silly to be kind of worshipful of numbers and processes and essentially algorithms. But this is actually a way that we do engage with our technology currently, and there's a lot of sort of blind trust in algorithms for various technological products that we use all the time. And actually, there are a bunch of people now that are sort of calling into question our relationship to algorithms. My advisor, Noah Wardrop-Fruin, has some really great work in his book, Expressive Processing, that talks about operational logics, or the way that we can sort of read some of these processes. And also Kevin Slavin has a few great talks on algorithms and how they are kind of silently and invisibly shaping our lives. It was devastating to see our revered mathematician go, but she was needed elsewhere. Her legacy abides. So let's ask what job they're working in. I don't know that it's been settled just yet. You see, sometimes we take on newcomers already in debt to the distillery. One of the foremen will find something for them to do, chip away at their sum until it's all settled. That's what I'm doing here, chipping away. That's what we're all doing. Chipping away is kind of this really interesting phrasing, considering, this person is basically a skeleton, sort of all that's left, and the implication here that we are sort of partially skeletons or kind of, chipping away at ourselves. It's a powerful kind of metaphor. Wow, check this stuff out. It must be decades old, but it's in perfect condition. Yeah, let's pick one. Yeah, so I think this is the same dialogue option that we ran into the other day. Like that computer back in the cave, Xanadu. Decades of engineering, thousands of years of mathematics and philosophy, all petrified into living stone. How could you just let that fall apart? So I'm really interested in the idea of these people as strangers. Because certainly there's a bit of othering going on with this kind of skeleton figure. So the shuttle before took us to a new area. That's why I kind of want to just look around, but I can't actually click on this other space, so we will have to take it. But we have these kind of skeletal figures around, sort of suggesting otherness, and magnified by this term strangers. And I'm kind of interested in that because so far, Doolittle hasn't behaved in a way that felt strange or othering. Doolittle has just kind of welcomed us and started talking to us as if we, have been best buds. Yeah, let's ask, what do you do here? Oh, I'm a copywriter. Text on bottles and flyers, ad copy, that sort of thing. I have definitely done copywriting, so I can relate. Discerning shades and heartsick lovers have long known the taste of hard times and held it in favor over all other spirits. That was one of mine. So one of the things about being a copywriter is it's like super thankless. You usually don't actually get your name on the stuff you're writing, but it does actually take kind of some good writing to match a certain tone and style, or to kind of unify a tone and style across different media. So the trucks are just eastaways in shipping. You can become acquainted with the dispatcher there. Give me a tap on the shoulder if you see something that catches your eye. Always happy to show off the facilities. Sublime machinery. Alright, so let's head down to shipping. So the audio that kicked up when we got into the little shuttle, it's very kind of unsettling, a little bit creepy. Let's see what we've got going on in shipping. So we've got this truck. I know that's going to take us somewhere if we check it out. But yeah, unfortunately we can't really explore much other area, so the game is sort of pointing us at this truck. And yeah, I'm also totally dependent on Google and Gmaps as well for but it's kind of funny because, you know, PageRank is kind of this algorithm that is so influential in how the internet works, and that's not usually interrogated enough. And particularly when things happen like large kind of controversies over things on Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia has kind of this special place in Google's page ranking. You know, it kind of highlights these things and calls them into question. I have to ask as a matter of course, what kind of experience do you have driving trucks? So we chose this option last time, let's choose the other. I used to drive long hauls. It's a kind of lonely thing, or so I hear. And you can drive safely, can't you? I haven't any doubt. Now it's only after what happened with Miguel this evening. So I think we chose Conway's option last time. Let's ask what happened with Miguel. Well, the dust is still clearing, of course. Perhaps he closed his eyes for a moment, or simply hit a curve. Oh, no, we didn't. We totally chose this option. I'm not sure, but at any rate, I know that we saw this because this was kind of the reveal that Miguel was the one in the crash that we saw in the first stream. Well, with all that lost product to be repaid, bourbon and glass dashed across the interstate, and a few casks too, we're all just thankful he had no next of kin. So let's see if we can ring up the dispatcher. Doolittle starts the truck and switches on the CB radio. A deep, monotonous voice drones from the dashboard speaker. 10-20 on that load, come back. Up and the Hummingbird came. 10-12, City Kitty. This is a good time, dispatch. We may have found Miguel's replacement. Thought you might like to get acquainted. 10-9, come again. Introduce yourself. So, it started with some kind of trucker speak that sounded plausible, but as these kind of keep going, the 10-9 and, all of these, maybe they're real, but they sound almost like a caricature of the way that truckers speak. I'm not really sure how to take that. 99, wheel holder, gotta pay the water bill. Ah, so... I'm certain they'll call back before long. Let's take a look around the truck, eh? Right, so we looked at the truck before. Oh, sure, I know you'll want to look. Kick the tires. That's a thing we do, isn't it? As though our knees could exert the kind of force these tires see out on the road. It's more likely to hurt ourselves, isn't that the way? And I think that's kind of funny. It's, sort of poking a little bit of fun at like the performance of going through these motions, and kind of interesting how much we are just sort of participating and going along with this kind of this like performance of being hired, even though we know that's not why we're here. But we as players can't really stop that from being a thing. Now, what else can we show you? So we're checking out the truck. Control the wipers with this knob here. Fiddles with the controls. Seem to have a decent torque to them, huh? Can't say how they'd fare in an ice storm, but we must never delay shipment. Better to assume the risk. I wouldn't know if I saw it. Too many years of climate control. Have I mentioned I rarely, if ever, leave the facility? I wouldn't know the rain if it drowned me. And we have this option here. The wipers might be fine, or we can kind of go to this flashback here. It's kind of denoted by semi-italic text. They ditched class for the day to drive in the rain. It was pointless to stay. All review. He was a lost cause, and she didn't need it anyway. She was smart, bored. It was time to cut out. There are a lot of bureaucratic spaces in this game. Yeah, totally. So it's interesting because it's kind of like forcing us to stop, slow down. It's really interested in kind of going through the motions of things that are, potentially boring. And yeah, so we have this fantastic flashback here, which, I kind of briefly mentioned it in the last stream, but, with some of our flashbacks, the text would sort of do this analepsis, this, flashback, while the visuals would stay in our current time. And with these kind of blacking it out, it's really sort of calling attention to the separation of space and time here. So it's more like we are like really, kind of going back in time with this flashback. Well, not like literally going back in time, but it is maybe consuming more of our cognitive load than previously. She had a voice like Scotch whiskey. And another and another. She worried it was getting dark out, and then it was getting light out. They ended up in someone else's field, in someone else's car, an early morning joyride, and a sunrise collision. She got on the bus, and he hiked back to his car. She sat in his car, and he sat in his car and went over to some options. Chicago? Toronto? Barrow? It seemed like a bold and impulsive gesture at the time. As he pulled out of the parking lot, he removed his hands from the steering wheel for a moment and felt the car drift into a decision. Years later, he'd think of this as the moment he himself started drifting. And these kind of moments feel very classically hypertext to me also. So a lot of the hypertexts of the 90s focused on flashbacks and memories, and the different nodes would sort of represent different moments in time that would sort of stitch together in this vignette kind of style that would sort of lead to a larger narrative across vignettes. And so like it's really interesting to me, like that moments of this game really feel like they're trying to connect with that history. And I might normally say that maybe that's just a coincidence, but with the direct references to Xanadu and kind of the history of hypertext through the Ted Nelson figure, I think it's pretty safe to say that like they're doing these sorts of things very intentionally. The angle of the sun at dusk and dawn means the light is mostly indirect reflections from the sky. Everything looks like a movie. It's all a bit softer. I love these occasional references to how things look that parallel how things actually look in the game at that moment, because right now we have a really kind of interesting lighting structure. It's this sort of soft lighting coming off of these headlights that are illuminating Conway, who then seems to be reflecting it throughout the scene. But we keep getting these options to see Conway's backstory a little bit, and I'm interested, so let's check this out. He turned off into some gray cornfield in Indiana. Empties rattled under the passenger seat. He watched traffic and birds. Kept them over there so the smell wouldn't spread. That window was always open a crack. He had to pull over. So, yeah, let's go with this option, I guess. He was only human. He'd been out since the headlights were on. Didn't even stop for coffee. He cracked a beer at 3, eyes on the road. 4:30. He dodged some stray cattle. Hi, Lemony. Good to see you. The headlights were coming back on. Rockford could wait. Early morning couldn't be much worse than late night. What could they care? He just needed a few hours. Yeah, I think that today is probably going to be our last day of Kentucky Route Zero. So I wanted to, kind of finish it off and have some fun with it. On Wednesday, I am open to suggestions, but barring any ideas, I will probably stream some Street Fighter, which could be hilarious. And so I had this idea that I would try to keep the stream kind of, PG and semi-professional, but I don't know if that's going to be possible with Street Fighter. It's just going to happen. I will do my best. By which I'm mostly referring to, like, swearing and expletives, because that's how Street Fighter goes for me sometimes, so we'll see. Okay, so we have this option here. Yeah, let's ask about Miguel. He did. It was a jealously guarded task for him, if I didn't know the man better. Hear me now. I say if I didn't know the man better, I may have suspected he was skimming off the top. And so it's great, because this option, just sort of through the language and the font, kind of conveys to me that the choice that I have here is either to continue this conversation in current time, or to kind of let myself go into these flashbacks. And I'm really interested in the flashbacks, so. Everything was too bright, his head hurt, the usual. Lysette and Ira argued loudly just outside the open barn door. She wanted Ira to take him inside and shower, have some coffee, get to the job. Did I get the option about the song? Can you be more specific? Ira said there wasn't time. Conway was in no condition. It was an important job. They couldn't put it off. Ira said to let the deadbeat sleep it off and then send him packing. Too late to love you. Oh, did you get a chance to watch the last stream? So we totally saw the song, if that is what you're asking. And I maybe freaked out a little bit at how amazing it was, because it was incredibly beautiful visually and orally, and just everything about that was totally amazing. I think that has been one of my favorite moments of the game so far, which is saying a lot, because I have really loved a lot of the kind of hypertext tie-ins as well, but that moment for me was just incredible, yeah. Yeah, okay, so, couldn't put it off. Ira said to let the deadbeat sleep it off and then send him packing. He said Charlie could do the job. Tried to say something reassuring, but just sort of stumbled around it. Lysette looked away. Ira just spat and went inside to wake Charlie. Ira was a stubborn man, so Charlie went along and Conway drifted out again. And he didn't hear about the accident until months later. Some extra significance. Okay, so if we don't get it, you are totally welcome to spoil it. The truck's radio crackles back to life. Driver, come back. Oh, there's dispatch. Now, tell them about your experience. Tell them the truck's in good shape. Tell them you'll start in the morning. So we saw the driving for a number of years thing. I might not have seen it, or I might not have equated those two things. So you're totally welcome to make that connection for us. 10:33 dispatch, got 2 black eyes and a flock of crocodiles. Come back. 10:04, pack it down and prick your eyelids, driver. Come back, Lem. 10:04. Come back, little holder. 10:04. Got your ears on? Good, listen to that. Lysette had originally sung. Oh, so that did kind of come up a little bit when we heard the song. There was kind of this suggestion. She married Ira and it was too late to love Conway. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I totally did not pick that up. So I'm so glad that you shared that, because yeah, there was definitely the suggestion that she had originally sung that to Conway. But yeah, it wasn't really clear. So I think like you're sort of touching on one of the things that I love about hypertext, and this game certainly has that element, is so many things that you catch on replay that maybe they're as clues and things before, but if you don't have kind of the proper framing for them, you actually might not pick up on them, or might not connect them to to certain things. So classic hypertext actually used to sometimes do this explicitly by having players revisit literally the same text, but once they had kind of a new framing, it would change the meaning of the passage. And I think that method of doing things has kind of fallen out of fashion, and it feels a little heavy-handed now, because people sort of just expect that that you'll play games like this multiple times, or works like hypertext. But yeah, I'm still kind of really tickled by how we just are sort of like getting in this car and saying, yeah, okay, let's just go along with this. Logistics. I really appreciate narratives too that don't necessarily hold the player reader's hand and spoon feed everything to them. I love narratives that kind of have this like almost like flower quality that they sort of unfold. You can explore the facility if you go up to a random skeleton and click on the button on the bottom. Yeah, I saw the last stream I did that, actually a skeleton just kind of fell apart, and then I felt really bad, so I didn't do it to any of the other skeletons. We only came here looking for some answers about this super moldy computer. So I like that we kind of just, as the player, went along with all of this because we had to, partly, but also because the first time through this, it sort of was just like, yeah, I don't really remember why we're here, and this game does such a great job of kind of warping the player's perception just enough to be unsettling, and doing this really great redirection thing where you kind of go, oh yeah, I'm just going along with it. Wait, why am I doing this? And I definitely had that experience the first time through. That black mold, it's drawn to whiskey. It feeds on ethanol fumes, you see. As we age the whiskey, some of it inevitably evaporates into the air. The angels share. Yeah, can you expand on that? I mentioned it like right before you came, but I would love to hear your thoughts on the connection between Skeleton's appearance and Conway's leg. It goes through the vents here and out into the caves. If we can scrape up that mold, we can usually apply some pressure and cold to it, squeeze and condense the angel's share back into drinkable whiskey. Every drop counts when you're making a living on the stuff, so we go down and scrape it off the equipment, just like any other place it grows. He kept sending his people here to drive us away. Paranoid. Truly paranoid. Well, now we have the formula, so we don't need to go collecting mold. Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of the parallel that I was making as well. Like there's kind of this. He makes a comment about chipping away at bits, and he means bits of debt, but there's also kind of this sense of like chipping away at bits of your humanity at the same time, right? And kind of the position that debt maybe puts you in. But yeah, super cool. One thing I know, the computer's been running for decades. Switch it off for a minute and let it rest. That'll get you going, I'm sure of it. So, join me upstairs. So yeah, so if we hit the button, it does this thing, and that's also what I did. I think when I walked up to another skeleton, I felt bad. There was something about that graphic that made it feel like made it feel, I don't know, like painful to them or something. If you don't mind. Okay, so let's check out the adding machine. So interested in kind of the parallel computational process. Here it is, a beauty, wouldn't you say? It's an antique, you know. What is it? Why, it's an adding machine. This is where we come for our daily ritual to calculate the day's interest and repayment according to the formula. I usually do so at the beginning of my shift, so I know how many hours I need in order to keep up. That's so sad, this kind of indentured servitude. But yeah, again, like, you know, we have this kind of like literal slavishness to computers and technology in this machine that come off as so ridiculous when it's in the form of an adding machine. But that's literally what computers are. So it's, yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of a really interesting way to read that. Yes, I believe you'll do well here, sir. Happy to have you. Congratulations, you're hired. Wait, we can't. It's customary to start each day with a shift drink. Let's make it special. Mark the occasion. This is the top shelf stuff. Single barrel. He doesn't. Down the hatch. I don't want to click that. I just straight up don't want to. And I can't actually even control the mouse right now, which is super interesting. So I didn't click that. I actually was trying to move the mouse away from it, and the mouse sort of slowly went over to the drink and then clicked itself. So that's like a really interesting way to in-engine take agency away from the player, you know, and kind of simulate this struggle with not being able to control yourself with drinking. Wow, that moment actually was like super powerful. Okay, decent enough. Welcome aboard. It's not working for you. We have to get back to this. He has a delivery to make. What's this? Not working? Are you turning down this opportunity? She's right. I have to make this. I'm disappointed. And afraid that leaves us with a delicate problem. As I indicated, this is the top shelf stuff you're drinking now. It isn't cheap. If it's not your first shift drink, well, there's the matter of this tour just now. My time and experience are billed at quite a premium. This is not good for you, my friend. You're in quite deep. By my back-of-the-envelope estimations, well, we have that in common, I suppose, all of us. Yes, I'm afraid you'll have to work this off somehow, but it's just the way of it. What is happening right now? I kind of appreciate Shannon sort of playing like the straight role here. Like, you know, Shannon is sort of the voice of reason, the voice of the player. What is even happening? You can start tomorrow. Take the time to settle your affairs. Of course, the interest begins to compound immediately, and, well, we'll go over the formula when you get here. I should get back to work. See you tomorrow, then. So interesting. Floop pointed out at the beginning of the stream that this game has a lot of focus on bureaucracy. You know, we have kind of factories and the bureau, and there's a lot of this sort of going through these motions of bureaucracy. And I think this is kind of an interesting climax to that of, like, you are kind of now put in this position of indentured servitude to this algorithm. Yeah, super, super creepy. Okay, so I guess I start in the morning. I guess. I'm confused. It's just the way these things go, kid. Huh, well, still gives us a few hours to roam, right? Where's that ferry? Yeah, it's definitely like a very stylized, very composed portrait shot. Beautifully done sort of silhouette over the lighting there. Oh, goodness. And again, kind of playing with, like, the diegesis a little bit. We think that's a foghorn, and then it's a mammoth for some reason. And, it's just kind of another example of this game being a bit fantastical and yeah, and a great point also about references to theater tradition. So yeah, man. So I am interested in kind of hearing your additional thoughts on the end of Act 3. Yeah, it definitely does have this kind of descent into hell. Definitely has that thing going on. And what's funny is I talked a lot about the dramatic pacing in the previous stream, and I think we are definitely seeing a different kind of dramatic tension, maybe. So there certainly is a rise in dramatic tension, and we certainly have more dramatic tension than we have at the end of any of the previous acts. But at the same time, that dramatic tension is also kind of couched in this bureaucracy and in this kind of boredom and, like, listlessness and yeah, it's a really interesting way to do tension. It's kind of the threat of boring stuff. I don't know, like, so now we're going to go into servitude. And further, if you wanted to kind of do like a meta games reading of it, there's also, kind of an even further loss of agency on the horizon for us as the player, right? Because before, at least, we had the chance to control our characters, within scenes and that sort of thing. But with our characters kind of having this parallel loss of agency themselves with this kind of indentured servitude, it's kind of reinforcing that, your choices are predefined by algorithms, sort of thing going on. So yeah, interested in you guys' readings. And I actually got a chance to download some of the auxiliary materials that I didn't get a chance to engage with previously. So let's fire some of those up. We are gonna switch over really quick. So there are 3 different ones that are offered on the website for Kentucky Route Zero. About how society always traps everyone. So yeah, okay, yeah, I'm pulling up Echo now. So interesting. Okay. So this is one that a friend of mine was telling me about, where we have this kind of telephone interface here, and it was released with a postcard. And the postcard has a phone number on it with a thing that says, "Here and there along the Echo, a guide to the Echo River for drifters and pilgrims." Now, my friend was telling me that that this also went along with like an eBay auction and like an actual phone that was supposed to ring at a certain time or something to that effect. So I don't actually know how that turned out, but it sounds super, super cool. So yeah, let me just pull up the postcard so I have the phone number here. Great. Okay. This window keeps kind of popping over it. Yeah, I can't get both windows up on my computer at the same time. So if somebody would be so kind as to pull up the phone number for me, I should call right now. Okay. On my actual phone? You guys want me to call on my actual phone? I can try to do this. I actually serendipitously have this on my phone. Okay. Just on your cell phone will work, but I can use the computer service. Okay, so I'm going to use the in-game one then for audio quality. And if one of you would be so kind as to actually pull up the number for me, it's on the Kentucky Route Zero webpage. Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, here we go. 270. I wonder if I had to dial 1 first. I probably did, but we're gonna try it like this anyway. Oh, let's actually make a phone call. Okay. We'll pretend like we know how to use telephones. Okay, it's ringing. Oh no! Thank you for telling me. Kentucky Zero, go away. I don't understand. I don't know why it's it seems to be stuck, so I'm actually gonna close this. Because like on my screen, I'm not getting that resolution screen. So yeah, KRZ is actually like closed on my computer. I have no idea why it's doing this. So we're gonna try here and there along the Echo. You wanna open. You wanna close you. Sorry, friends. Also, thank you for pointing it out, though. Okay. If this still doesn't want to load... Yeah, I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, we're going to try a different thing. I can't escape, I still have a debt to pay. That's exactly what it is. Okay, try again. Resize you. Okay, try that. Is that working? Yay! Okay, great. Sorry about that. Yes, now, try this again. I love the audio there, how it kind of picks up a little. Okay, now, phone number 270-301-5797. It's weird, this first-person perspective. I actually feel like I want to hold my hand up. Let's do some elevator music.
Hello. You have dialed into Here and There Along the Echo, a guide to the Echo River for drifters and pilgrims. This guide is a public service provided by
They totally were.
of Secret Tourism.
Secret tourism. So we have another moment of, even in the auxiliary materials, we're kind of like waiting. There's a lot of bureaucracy.
Press 1. If you have an extension to dial, press 9. For more information about our organization, press 3. If you don't remember dialing this number at all, press 5. To hear these options again, press 0.
Oh my gosh, all of those options. Okay, let's start with 3.
The Bureau of Secret Tourism is supported by a generous population of river creatures whom I fix up and grill as necessary. I am environmentally minded, and I believe all creatures are equally deserving of support in their transition to the next world. So I usually try to sing a little elegy, like, small water creature, crab or frog.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
You know that sleep is all around us, like a muddy, tranquil fog. Something like that. It's easier to come up with these songs when I'm hungry in a sort of transcendental fasting state. I've actually just had breakfast. A debt of gratitude is also owed to the Bureau of Reclaimed Spaces, who unselfishly and unknowingly donates this here telephone line for the purpose of this here informational resource. You can always find the latest secret tourism literature in any of our unmarked kiosks or any other old place that happens to lay. That's all I have to say about that. Hey, do me a favor. When you get a chance, call us back at extension 1928.
1928, write that down, chat.
0 now to go back to the main menu.
Nice. So, I love the mention of transcendental
Press 0
there.
now to go back to the main menu.
Okay, I'm pressing 0. Which is kind of interesting because the transcendentalists were this movement of nature-loving folks, which I'll talk about more.
For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For help identifying an unfamiliar sound, press 3. If you're holding a snake right now, press 4.
Oh my gosh, such
To hear
good
these options
choices.
again, press 0.
These choices are amazing. Okay, what do you think we should pick, chat? And in the meantime, I'll
For
tell you.
historical
I will not
sites
tell you about
along the
transcendentalism.
Echo River, press 1. For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For help identifying an unfamiliar sound, press 3. If you're holding a snake right now, press 4.
I think we're holding a
To hear
snake.
these options again,
Yeah, I think so.
press 0.
Okay, we're doing it.
So, you're probably not in any danger, but why are you holding that snake?
We're all on board with the
An
snake.
exchange of some kind, press 1. If holding the snake is part of your spiritual practice, press 2. If you don't remember why you're holding the snake, press 3. To return to the main menu, press 0.
Okay, why are we holding a snake?
If you're involved in an exchange of some kind, press 1. If holding the snake is part of your spiritual practice, press 2. If you don't remember why you're holding
I
the
think
snake,
maybe we don't remember why we're holding the snake.
to return to the main menu, press 0. Okay. What's the last thing you remember? Please describe your memory in as much detail as you are able, paying particular attention to any smells and sounds you may recall. Were you breathing through your mouth or your nose? What did the air taste like? And so on. Feel free to call again with extension 1618.
1618.
Tell us the whole story.
Chat.
All right. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work on this here snake situation. What you're going for is a kind of gestural conversation. Don't worry. I'll lead you two through it. Give that snake a name and look her right in the
This is
eyes and
amazing.
say her name.
This is
I'm
so
going to
good.
deal for the purpose of demonstration, but you pick a suitable name. Try to follow along with me here to the best of your ability. Delia, take it easy now. What if all of this is just a reflection of a reflection? Now hold the silence while she processes that metaphysical curveball. Okay, what's Delia up to now? If she's staring right back at you, press 1. If she's wriggling around, press 2. And if she's just kind of limp, press 3.
I love this because this is basically like the oral version of like the kinds of choices we were having in the game,
Now you
right?
got her attention. Now, leading with your shoulder, slowly tilt your body to the left, always maintaining eye contact. Adjust your feet as necessary. You want to do a full rotation over several seconds. It's normal to feel a bit self-conscious. Try not to get tangled up in the phone cord, or next time plan ahead and use a cordless. All right, where are we at? If the snake is breathing heavily, press 1. If she's curled around your forearm, press 2. If her tongue is extended, press 3.
I definitely think her tongue is extended. I love this though because it's basically giving us the option to take part in the story, but in the same ways that we were able to take part in the story previously, where we're kind of like helping write it by shaping which details we reveal.
Just point your tongue right back at her. If hers moves left, yours moves right, and so on. Maintain eye contact so she knows you're not making fun of her. There you go. Delia should be in a kind of a calm, thoughtful state now, so you can move on. So put that snake in some grass or something. Let Delia be free like a snake should. And go ahead and wash your hands if you care to. I would. Welcome home. For historical sites along the Echo River, press 1. For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For help identifying an unfamiliar sound, press 3. If you're holding a snake right now, press 4. To hear these options again,
All right,
press 0.
which one are we going to go with this time? I'm sort of leaning toward the unfamiliar sound.
For historical sites
But yeah,
along the Echo River,
I don't know. I don't think anything's going to top that snake thing.
For a
It's
guide
pretty
to
amazing.
the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For help identifying
Also, hello, I
an
smell.
unfamiliar sound, press 3. If you're holding a snake right now, press 4.
Oh, we
To
just
hear
did
these
4.
options again, press 0. historical sites along the Echo River, press 1. For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For a help,
let's go with 3.
For a catalog of subterranean birdsong, press 1. For help identifying something that's happening in the dark, press 2. If you are hearing organ music, press 3. To return to the main menu, press 5. To hear these options again, press 0.
It's hard to tell how long the chat delay is. So,
press 1. For help identifying something that's happening in the
I'm gonna
dark,
go with the
press
something in the dark.
The wet, rocky contours of the Echo River make for sometimes baffling reverberations that turn mundane sounds into weird, rattling symphonies. Like that. It can be a challenge to pick through the clamor and recognize even something as simple as water dropping in a metal bucket, especially in the dark. Here are some examples. When you hear a sound you want to know more about, just press 1. At any time, you can press 5 to stop.
Oh my gosh, what's that?
That was a canoe tipping over from several miles away. That was someone burning a phone book. That was someone tearing up an electric bill. That was a phone ringing underwater. That was a motorboat's propeller failing. That was dirt being thrown on the lid of a coffin.
Oh.
And that was a canoe tipping over from several miles away.
So that's kind of an interesting one where it sort of just let us cycle through all of the choices. Again, sort of alleviating that choice anxiety so that we can sort of know that we're experiencing all of the content.
For a catalog of subterranean birdsong, press 1. For help identifying something that's happening in the dark, press 2. If you are hearing organ music, press 3.
Okay, let's go with 3.
You. Does it sound like this?
I mean, so this is lovely. Welcome to Cerebral Arcade, where we pontificate the meaning of the universe over organ sound. This is lovely. That's fine. We're gonna hang out here for a minute and talk a little bit about the choice structure. Yeah. I like what this piece is doing in terms of choice structure. A lot of it is mirroring the kinds of story structure that we saw in the actual piece. Some of it is kind of doing very specific things, like I just mentioned, in order to sort of alleviate that choice anxiety, so we can be sure we're actually seeing all of the options. But yeah, I think in general, transmedia is kind of this word that people hate because it's become really associated with marketing campaigns But originally what it meant was basically just a work of a fictional world that was played out across different media. So, you know, one of the really famous examples was like all of the Mad Men characters had Twitter accounts. And so you would kind of get, you know, this fictional continuing of that universe in a different medium. But they were all sort of dependent on kind of the main narrative. And a lot of times it's just a marketing thing for, you know, for drawing people back to sort of the main narrative. But there are works like alternate reality games that do this as kind of their primary form of narrative, sort of these stitching together of components in the same way that hypertext does. So it's really cool to see both an indie game kind of using this sort of transmedia paradigm to promote its game, but also to expand the story world and just make things feel really deep and rich. And I think, to be honest, that transmedia is a really untapped market in terms of potential for, you know, creative authoring. So, okay, I'm gonna move on from organ stuff. So we actually just have to, like, hang up. Okay. Oh, interesting. And this is the first time that we have humans. Oh, let's just take a minute. Let's give them a call back. Chat, can you give me that number one more time? Yeah, it started with 270. Make an alt tab to get the rest of it. 301-5797. Yeah, 797.
Hello. You have dialed into Here and There Along the Echo, a guide to the Echo River for drifters and pilgrims. This guide is a public service provided by the Bureau of Secret Tourism.
Yeah, so Bob and Emily were the characters. We saw them at the very beginning playing games. Yeah, exactly, Lemony. And then they've sort of grown into like the musicians, Greek chorus figures.
For a menu of our resources,
Okay, so let's put in
for historical sites, for different types of water, press 1.
Whoa.
For the language of bats, press 2.
I think we were supposed to dial
insect
something.
interactions, press 3. To return to the main menu, press 5.
We're gonna come back to you.
Welcome home. For historical sites along the Echo River, press 1. For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For help identifying an unfamiliar sound, press 3. If you're holding a snake right now, press 4. To hear these options again, press 0.
So did we have to dial a number before contacting
For historical
people?
sites along the Echo River, press 1. For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For help identifying an unfamiliar sound, press 3. If you're holding a snake right now, press 4. To hear these options again, press 0.
I like the way you said press 0. But I thought that...
For historical sites along the
Stop.
Echo River,
Alright.
press 1. For a guide to the river's flora and fauna, press 2. For
Yeah,
help
I think I'm gonna have to as well. Cool, ready to go?
The number you have dialed is not real.
That's great. Okay. But yeah, I think like this is just kind of an extension of that bureaucracy too, which is sort of a really interesting tie-in and a way to do it.
Hello. You have dialed into Here and There Along the Echo, a guide to the Echo River for drifters and pilgrims. This guide is a public service provided by the Bureau of Secret Tourism. For a menu of our resources, press 1. If you have an extension to dial, press 9. Now is the time to dial an extension.
Let's go with this. Hi, Jackson.
I just want to listen to the wind blow. Or even better, television static. Can you tune your TV to a dead station and let the static play into the phone? When you're finished, press the 0 button. Thanks.
Yeah.
I just want to listen to the wind blow. Welcome home. For historical sites along the Echo River, press 1.
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to talk about the entertainment, but I probably won't actually go through the whole thing. But yeah, wanted to talk about it, but again, like 40 minutes is kind of a while and probably won't be able to go through all of it. So I figure we can kind of talk about the format and stuff, and then maybe another time actually sit and watch it together. Okay. But we do only have a few minutes left, and I do want to talk about the other stuff. So, yeah, let's go. Cool. So, I guess that's started. Well, thanks for joining us. Okay, so let's take a look at other stuff. Let's talk about maybe limits and demonstrations first. Oh goodness, hopefully this isn't gonna like break things again. My computer really wants to show you Kentucky Route Zero, despite the fact that Kentucky Route Zero is supposedly not running anymore. So, yeah, let's... Okay, yeah, for some reason, I don't know what it's doing. Alright, let's try closing it again. And sorry to have to do this way. I promise I did prep everything and queue it all up, but unfortunately, it doesn't like that. Okay. The limit does not exist. Yeah. All right, so this is limits and demonstrations. And for some reason, I have other windows popping up and killing my thing here. Okay. So this is super cool. We basically come in and we have kind of the same visual art style as we have in Kentucky Route Zero, but this wall text right at the beginning here that is very evocative of gallery settings. Yeah, and the suspenders are really cute. So yeah, we basically have wall text and this kind of virtual gallery. And we can even read it further. Wall text, limits and demonstrations. A Lula Chamberlain retrospective. So the tie-in to the narrative here is that this is kind of, diegetically Lula Chamberlain's work, marking the first major public showcase of her work in over 20 years. This retrospective exhibition of work by pioneering installation artist Lula Chamberlain comprises a diagonal slice through time, place, and form. The pieces on display here were individually debuted over a period of 35 years, designed in Chamberlain's various homes and studios between her beloved Mexico City and her native Elizabethtown. They represent a range of scale and impact, from the intimate warmth of vertex texture effects to the infamous visage, the latter of which requires a vertical clearance of over 30 feet. Yet these works share a confounding legacy. In each of their debut exhibitions, they were nearly impossible to install. Galleries and museums balked at the scale, power requirements, and highly skilled labor involved in maintaining these works for display. Some of their debuts collapsed under the weight of logistics, only to be successfully executed much later. And so, just as they described the outer limits of Chamberlain's range as an installation artist, the geographical edges and vertices of her itinerant home life, and the beginning and end of her distinguished career, the works on display here also trace the extremes of our capabilities and the frontiers of our patience as both viewers and exhibitors. Yeah, those bears! Okay, other maybe favorite moment of the game. Those bears were pretty great. Are we capable of viewing these works as they were meant to be viewed? Do we even want to be? So, yeah, kind of definitely have a lot going on there in terms of engaging with the idea of the gallery space. And the interesting thing about virtual space is that you actually can do certain things that you can't really do in galleries. And this work seems to be kind of calling attention to that. And yeah, and I love the idea of the frontiers of our patience. Also, yeah, exactly, Floop. It's like this whole piece, like the whole work has been kind of poking at that and flirting with this idea of our patience, what is reasonable to expect of players, and forcing us through like these various forms of bureaucracy. Totally reminiscent of Xanadu. And my friend who was telling me about these materials was also saying that he had heard, I don't know how reliable this is, but that he had heard that there actually was a real exhibition of this. I don't know where, but my understanding of this, though, is that the whole idea is sort of engaging with like this impossibility of space. And since so much of Kentucky Route Zero is kind of focused around the idea of like virtual space and ambiguous space, I'm kind of curious how that would actually go. So title card, basement puzzle number 2, plaster and wire. What do you think she means by puzzle? Well, that feels like such a meta thing. So again, we have Emily and Bob. Yeah, weird. I guess it's something you can solve. They must be symbols. Artist, sunset, horse, or is it an anagram, or like a code? And I love this kind of poking at our idea of what puzzles are, and this invocation of symbols kind of has this very like semiotics kind of vibe to it. So semiotics is a field of research that is engaged with signs and our understanding of symbols. Maybe it's not a puzzle, it's just about a puzzle. So I like that the options here, while they're sort of taking on the same form that we have in Kentucky Route Zero, they're also potentially flirting with the idea of giving us information, but maybe that's also a misdirection, right? Maybe it's a puzzle, but there's no right answer. That's kind of sad. And it does seem like they're kind of poking fun a little bit here at labels of things, and this idea of what do we call a puzzle, and why do we call it that, and does it actually matter? Okay, so kind of this lovely rotation and panning. In the style of Edward Packer. Can you explain what you mean by a real artist? And I'm also not familiar with Edward Packer, so were I researching this piece not on a stream, that would probably be the first thing I did was look up that work. It's an installation from a different artist made of audio tape, and then she took it and recorded all over the tape with her own sounds. You can listen to it by running this tape playback head around it. Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the things with transmedia, right, is that it's very interested in blurring the lines between different media, and in the process, a lot of times blurring the line with reality, especially as technology becomes kind of increasingly integrated with real world. So a lot of the fun of transmedia, a lot of the pleasure experience is in, that question of, what's real and what's not. And I think, a lot of alternate reality games, kind of lean really heavily on that pleasure experience as kind of its core feature. It's an installation by different artists made of audio tape. Yeah, okay. Let's try it out. Bob drags the playback head along the tape. A woman's voice issues unsteadily from the speakers. You start in the middle. Donald and Joseph are in a hallway. I am in an office. The walls are lined with filing cabinets. A few drawers hang open. The door is ajar. A massive computer looms in the corner. There are some punched cards on the floor. Yeah, so, and Lemony brings up a great point that this was released before Act 2, really. So I thought this was released between Act 2 and 3, which has sort of given us Lula as like an artist figure, but we haven't yet gotten to Xanadu and seen Donald and Joseph and all of that. So if that's the case, then this is also sort of framing or priming us to think in terms of this IF sort of narration that we were getting in Act 3. This other article says non-existent artist. Yeah. So that's a fun thing with the internet. Just shows how much is planned ahead. Yeah, definitely. You certainly get the sense that things are very planned through, like how much foreshadowing has happened, and I mean, in the first act, we kind of opened that book that seemed to tell us exactly how the story was going to go, which points to maybe like a less plot-driven focus and more kind of making the argument that it's all in the journey, which sort of fits really nicely with the themes of traveling and driving of the piece, right? Computer to examine cards, rotate 30 degrees and advance 7 inches. To leave room, rotate 17 degrees and advance 4 inches. To activate computer, rotate 200 degrees and advance 15 inches. So then we have these options here. So loud, I love it. I'm now holding 2 punch cards. On one of them, Joseph has scribbled a note, caves. The other is blank. So this also feels like a place where I could spend a lot of time. So I'm actually probably going to kind of breeze through this a little bit. I'm not going to read it or anything aloud. So I want to kind of move things a little bit so that we can talk a little bit about the entertainment before I have to go. So also, since there seems to be a really, really heavy chat delay, the chat delay seems to be almost like 15, 30 seconds. Yeah, now would kind of be a great time to be thinking about kind of final thoughts on limits and demonstrations. I'm really interested by the title of that also. It's kind of drawing specific attention to physical space as limited. There was a physical exhibit. Yeah, that's so cool. Like, so cool. Okay, so we're kind of in this now. Yeah, I'm going to blame the delay on being on school internet today. So yeah, it's kind of also sort of engaging with this idea of artistic practice. What really is the beginning, middle, and end, which is kind of a fun point to poke at for an episodic piece, right? Specifically one that is so kind of overt about labeling all of its, all of its parts down to individual scene numbers. Okay, so I would, yeah, you guys are funny since you're both scholars. So I like Ben's kind of interjection here. That's the only choice. So this is kind of interesting because I'm sort of like trying to kind of quickly click through stuff, and it's not very easy to do. So I remember somebody in our first stream saying that they were working on figuring out how to speedrun Kentucky Route Zero, which seems so fascinating to me for a piece that is normally about kind of reading. It doesn't strike me as the sort of piece that you would initially do a speed run of. So I don't know, that's very fascinating. Yeah, and I'm noticing definitely the Xanadu tie-in as well. Which again, like this is kind of getting back at that thing that we were talking about at the beginning of the stream of looking at having these moments of replaying the same events from different perspectives, which takes on this kind of like very postmodern ideology of, everything is about perspective, right? And that there are no absolute truths. Okay. So yeah, and I love these choices that are sort of also these meta commentaries. But I wanted to explore the space a little bit because with kind of the title of it and the sort of hyper emphasis on difficulty of installation and all of that, I kind of suspect that we might run into another instance of this kind of hyperdimensional space that we saw on the road. And in fact, I believe I'm right, because this is a perfect kind of meta example of like impossible things with space, right? Like it feels like there's too much space for what we're actually seeing. And so I don't think it's quite, the hyperdimensional thing that we ended up with on the Zero at the loop, but it still does have that same sort of disquieting feeling of like something is like not quite right. There's something askew. It almost hits like this uncanny valley of space and how space is supposed to behave. Yeah, cool. Okay, so unfortunately, due to time, I think I'm not going to have time to go through all of the pieces. it amazes me though how this feels both very tightly scoped and also really open and incredible. Like, yeah, subtle hyperdimensionality is a great way to put it. It feels like even though technically this is only one, room, it's also, there's so much material here, and the amount of depth and how easy it is to miss stuff. It's just really, really incredible. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really so kind of blown away by how impressive all of these are. Yeah, and I think that's really drawing kind of an eye to how difficult these are to install. But having that wall text that's kind of commenting on, this was such a difficult installation for Lula to have, and then you see some of these pieces like, yeah, this would be really hard to install. So yeah, it's kind of mind blowing. Okay, so last one. I'm just gonna assume that I'm gonna have problems with this one, and we're just gonna cut right to the chase. Yes. Okay. Entertainment. Yeah, giant computer teetering on a corner. Crazy, right? Again, sorry, friends, that my prepared ones don't seem to like the stream today. Let's do that. Okay. All right, let's give it a shot. Okay. So, this is super interesting. I do get the sense I probably should have sound, and I don't. Maybe sound will start. If it doesn't, I may need to close it and reopen it. Kentucky Route Zero has been a bit buggy. I absolutely love what it's doing, but yeah. So my understanding of this is that this is also available as an Oculus piece, except your only controls are just being able to move around. So this is, as Lemony was saying, this is a 40-minute play that you can also download the script for. This is kind of the closest we've gotten to like a first-person, like a very sort of responsive in terms of game feel kind of thing. So we have, yeah, just these cues. There is actually slight sound that I can hear now. Okay. We have this going on. And then it's kind of giving me my cues, so I'm the barfly, right? But all I can really do is look around. And my understanding is if you turn all the way around, there is actually an audience out there. It's my understanding. But we are not supposed to look at them. we are up here on a stage, and we are literally participating in a play. So yes, so I'm looking around independently. Like, basically my mouse controls are just head movement. I have no clicking, and yeah, I'm just looking around. So yeah, this is interesting, because this feels like the bar that we visited. We have Hard Times whiskey served here. Kind of interesting, like, subtle difference in lighting as I move around. And it's difficult to tell if that is for dramatic reasons, or if that is designed to draw my attention. Yeah, I probably am a spaxy looking barfly right now. That's a really great point. Yeah, so then, we get these moments where the lights kind of come up a little bit and I can see around me a little better. Here's that sandwich. So there was that moment in this bar. I don't know if you all remember it, but there was this moment where we could come and kind of look at a sandwich on the counter and look at the paper, and this kind of gigantic sandwich here, I think, is sort of meant to visually place these things in kind of context. So then it does sort of bring up the question of, when you turn around and you get this audience, who is that audience supposed to be, really? I don't know. Kind of amazing, really cool stuff. And this is a whole play that plays out over 40 minutes. So yeah, the whole thing is just really incredible and super meta, super mind-blowing. The sort of transmedia experience, they're sort of tied in to each other so well that in some ways these don't even feel like auxiliary pieces. Like, this very much feels like it could just be a standalone piece. And the fact that it happens to take place within this other game kind of is a little bit mind-blowing. Like, this whole experience is just super crazy awesome. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and call for chat. If you have any final questions or comments or anything, I probably am going to start wrapping up soon. In the meantime, I'll be thinking about my closing comments. So Kentucky Route Zero as a whole so far has been a really incredible experience. This feels very much like what... I think Kentucky Route Zero has gotten a lot of acclaim for sort of, untapping the potential of games. And I think that's actually pretty fair. They are doing some really incredible stuff, tying in, tons of high art traditions into a game in a way that doesn't disrupt the flow of it or make it feel like it's trying too hard. Or anything like that. Like, the game on its own is also just a standalone, wonderful thing to play. It's a lot of fun. And the narrative experience is, like, really interesting and gripping. I think there's a bit of, like, an eat your vegetables feeling with certain works of, canonical literature. So, while I can completely recognize the genius that goes into, like, James Joyce's Ulysses or writing something like that, it's not the kind of thing that I would, like, sit around on a Saturday and read. Whereas, like, this game has all of the kind of, high art ambition of something like that without feeling like a slog or feeling like I'm eating my vegetables by playing it. It's like this, this fantastic kind of, like, peeling experience of like, narrative and layers of meaning that are sort of so interesting and pleasurable to sort of peel through. So I'm just really having a great time. But yeah, and yeah, I think everybody in chat right now is kind of bringing up, a lot of the same, like, really great points where it's like, it offers a lot of different kind of pleasures experiences, right? So it's the abstract art, or, kind of the polygon, low poly style is just beautiful in itself. The animation is absolutely breathtaking. There are these sort of visually stunning moments that are just totally incredible. And yeah, you're right, Lemony. Tons of people will play it just for that. But then other people will kind of like be picking up on these layers of meaning. And I think it's really speaks to the level of craft and thought in the game that you have these different pleasure experiences that people are sort of able to bring to it. So it looks like no final questions. Lots of people gushing alongside me, which I am totally for. This game is just so great for lots of reasons. I think it functions really well as an episodic narrative. My only maybe slight complaint is that the pacing definitely is difficult to get into if you're not sort of expecting it. I think it's certainly like making a very salient point, so it's I think on that level it's fine, but there's certainly it's got its slow moments, reflective moments, you might say. But yeah, in general, I think it's functioning really well as an episodic narrative. And yes, Floop, I am also super glad I looked at the auxiliary materials because they are really fantastic. And if there are no further questions for me, I am probably going to sign off, and I will see you all on Wednesday playing Street Fighter and being very professional in my analysis of it and totally not cursing at people on the internet at all. So, thanks, friends. I appreciate you watching. Bye.